Welcome back to another Sabbath School lesson, everyone. This is lesson number 1 of a new quarter. And by the way, welcome back. Or maybe you should say welcome back to me. I'm not really sure. But either way, I'm back. So I just wanted to let you know that we are going to be producing more videos. There was a bit of a pause for several months on the videos, partly because I ended up having phone issues, technology issues, and it's not like I have a professional team that does this, so I kind of had to work on those things. And then I had a software update and change with the editing software I use. And either way, the point is it was very elaborate, took some time off, but now we're back and you're going to see videos more consistently. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before, pick up right where we left off. And this is going to be Profound Meditations, Sabbath School Summary, lesson number 1, starting a new quarter, Paul and the Ephesians. Let's get into it. Memory verse for this week is going to be Ephesians chapter 1, verse 9 and 10. And it says, making known to us the mystery of his will, according to his purpose, which he set forth in Christ as a plan for the fullness of time, to unite all things in him, things in heaven and things on earth. The book of Ephesians is based on Ephesus. So Ephesus was just a booming city in the Roman Empire at the time. In fact, it had over 250,000 people in the city. It was just very huge. Paul spent years working in this place because there was a lot of work to do. And also, it was very highly economic driven. So they had a lot of trade routes that ran through here because they had a port. Many people came right out the ocean and kept on going into Ephesus as well as other parts of the Roman Empire. So the point is, this was a very important city of that time. And they also had a goddess called Artemis of the Ephesians. Now, the Romans referred to Artemis in the name of Diana, but the point is it's the same entity. And the point is this type of god, this goddess, was very well known specifically for childbirth and also hunting. So if you can think about it, in those days, hunting is for eating, you acquiring food, and then also you have childbirth, which is reproducing the next generation. So this was a very key figure, and the temple that they made to Artemis was grand. It was one of the 7 wonders of the world. And so Paul jumps into this and he starts speaking to Christians and also people that were Gentiles about Christianity, bringing strange type of beliefs. And many people were getting converted. But because of this, there was a huge actual economic structure system where many individuals would actually make idols essentially of the goddess Artemis and other gods. And because their sales of idols were starting to go down, because Paul was starting to kind of go up as far as his conversions, many people were shying away from buying those type of worthless gods. That's changed the economic structure, and many people got upset, and it caused a social revolution at one point. So here's one of the key things that the author is really trying to get out to you. It's trying to really express to you that Paul's ministry in Ephesus was so significant that it affected both the social and the economic structure. And it's also kind of a call back to us to ask the question, is your witness so significant that it's affecting the economics in your local area? And is it affecting social change in your local area as well? So these are some of the things author kind of brings out just in various different ways. Now, number 2, he mainly just kind of continues to go through a general outline of Ephesus. He really doesn't bring up a lot of significant points, but just I say Ephesus. he doesn't really bring out a lot of significant points, but he essentially goes over a brief overview of the book of Ephesians so you can get an idea of how it's structured. One of the key main themes to kind of see here, I think there's really mainly kind of 4 key themes in Ephesians, is number 1, the overall view of salvation. So salvation comes through Christ, it comes by faith. Paul is expressing this in very poetic language, and he's just continuing on through that. Ephesians is actually one of the best condensed books to really explain salvation. By the way, I'm gonna try to hit my leg a little bit because I think I just got bit by a mosquito, but don't worry, we're going to continue the production. So if you end up seeing me kind of swat, it's because I'm getting attacked by a mosquito. So don't worry about it. So either way, the general outline that you essentially see is, again, salvation through Christ, and it comes by faith. Number two, you want to also see that Paul kind of gives the notion that these people are Gentiles. Like, you were Gentiles. You weren't a part of God's fold, and you were brought in. And so again, he kind of gives the theme of the gospel going from, of course, God, Jesus, to the Jews, and then to the Gentiles. And as an extension of this administration of God actually kicking out the gospel, Paul introduces himself and says, remember, again, it was because of this whole thing that I was called to be an apostle to you. So he's kind of just building this context. And in the end, and especially the last chapter 4 and 5, he kind of transitions a little bit more so into a love and unity type chapter to say, listen, if we're all a part of one body and one spirit, we should be in complete one love and one unity. So they said one love. I feel like Bob Marley. So we should essentially be all in unity, one love, just like Bob Marley. But anyways, the point is, that's essentially what Paul is trying to wrap up in Ephesians, and that's essentially what the author's kind of getting across. There's not a lot of key points in this lesson. He more so is just trying to give an introductory to the book of Ephesians. So let's transition to the profound meditation. Okay, so for profound meditation, I want you to consider something very interesting here. I want you to look at Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 5 and 6. He predestined us to adoption as sons through Jesus Christ to himself, according to the kind intention of his will, to the praise of the glory of his grace, which he freely bestowed on us in the beloved. Now, the key thing to kind of point out about this is Paul's emphasis on the idea of adoption. In the Roman Empire, it was very difficult for you to actually adopt. Like, you had to go through a very extensive process to adopt someone. And the idea here is that a father could actually abandon his son and completely ignore and say, hey, you're not my son anymore. I'm not going to give you part of my inheritance or whatever, my resources, my wealth. You're not my family member. You're not my son. But if you were to adopt someone in the Roman Empire, according to Roman law, you were not actually able to deny that son. It was irreversible. So a person that decided to go out and adopt, the process was very extensive. It was hard to do. And even when you got adopted, it was irreversible. So what Paul's trying to really get across here is this idea of you being adopted into God's family. It's irreversible. And the point is, it's very secure for you at the same time. It's not like he's going to go back and you're not going to be a part of his fold. So just keep that in mind. There's also something else to see here. Back in Roman times specifically, there were really two main reasons why people adopted. It's because they didn't have a child, or number two, it was partly because they thought the child that they had was incapable of managing the family resources. And so they went out and got another child to essentially do that. It was very strategic. What Paul is trying to really bring out here is that essentially God actually thinks that you are able to manage his resources, his wealth. Just as back in the days of the Roman Empire, if you were to adopt someone, you adopted someone that you believe could actually manage your wealth. And the idea here stays the same also for Paul. Paul is re-illustrating to the Ephesians that, hey, listen, God essentially chose you because he believed that you are capable of actually managing his wealth, his resources. So here's a question for you. What has God given you? And also, are you managing it well? What has God given you? And also, are you managing it well? I'm Oswald, and this is Profound Meditations, Sabbath School Summary.